Okay, so we were commenting that we didn't know if this music was for us to dance or something before we started the panel. But well, good morning and thank you everyone. We are going to have hopefully a great discussion here about the future of corporate travel. I'm very well surrounded here with these two great experts in the topics and friends. So Emily Weiss, who is the global industry lead for travel at Accenture, and Rudy Daniello, who is the head of corporate IT at Amadeus. And I'm Miguel Flecha. I'm also part of Accenture and responsible for our travel practice here in Europe. And we actually started this discussion last night over dinner, and it was great. So I'm expecting this to be the continuation of that. It was really a very exciting discussion with three of us very passionate about this industry and about this topic. So hopefully you will all enjoy this passion together with us, and hope it's an exciting session for you. So I would like to structure the conversation in basically three topics. One is about the recovery, is the big topic, the big question, the big thing. So what's going on and how corporate travel is going to behave in the coming months. Are we going back to the same levels as before the pandemic or not, and how? And that will be the initial part of the discussion. Then we want to talk about the traveler and how the traveler is changing. And in the corporate travel side and in the business travel side, it's not only about the traveler, the business traveler, but also the corporation, right? And how the corporation's expectations are changing and evolving after the pandemic, because that's going to be key to understand how the corporate travel market will behave in the coming years. And then the last topic that for me is probably the most relevant is the readiness factor. So which are the priorities to actually make sure that as corporate travel starts to ramp up again, the industry is ready and has all the, let's say, technology, sustainability, etc. dimensions properly covered to actually capture the opportunity and recover. So let me start with you, Rudy, and go into the initial topic. So how do you see the recovery, and what do you believe is going to be, or how the corporate travel market will behave in the coming months?
Right. First of all, hello everyone. If you ask me, I'm going to tell you it's going to come back, right? However, I'm sure you want to have a little bit of facts behind my statement. So in Amadeus, lacking a crystal ball, we have, commissioned a company, Census-wide, to perform an analysis and a research. And they have interviewed more than 4,500 business travelers. And they came back with fairly interesting facts backing up my statement that it will come back. How it will come back, I think we'll discuss about that. But what we're saying is that basically more than 72% of the business travelers are ready to, hit the road and hit the skies, if we can say that. There's not much to hit in the skies, next year. So that's really good. And as a matter of fact, 67% of them told us, hey, we're already planning a trip next year. And if we look at the frequent business travelers, it's even better, because we're getting a fairly large part of them, which is 1/4, 28% to be precise, saying we've already planned 2 trips next year. So it's coming back. Another good thing, and I was surprised when I read that, is that only 41% of the business travelers are concerned with catching COVID when traveling. But it's, it's a good thing. Yeah. Still, they do see some hurdles, right? And the fact of, self-isolation, quarantine, that's being seen as a hurdle for 38% of them. And 35% are a little bit worried about last-minute cancellation due to government or regulation changes. So that's, the way we see it. Yes, it's coming back, but there are some questions we need to answer in order for them to come back safely.
Yeah, and if I could just add, and hello everyone, I'm glad to be here. What's interesting is that I also agree that it's going to come back, but I've been saying very often it's going to come back differently. in a very, very different way. The days of, and pardon my North America reference, but the days of flying across the country for a 1-hour meeting or hopping across the pond for a 1-hour meeting, I think are long gone. I don't think people are going to be doing that, but they're going to be traveling further distances or for longer durations. And that those kinds of trips that will be made, they'll be being done with a more purposeful vision, so that people are returning to business travel, but they'll be thinking about it in a very different way, making sure that they include multiple meetings in there, making sure that they're more thoughtful and mindful about the way they travel, about the decisions they make, about being more responsible with how they are traveling. And on the corporation side, they're responsible now for informing the traveler to be able to make those responsible decisions and more purposeful, value-driven decisions.
Actually, your trip to Europe now is an example. You can probably share your personal experience.
Yeah, no, and so you probably can tell by the accent. I'm from New York, and I came over. I've been in Europe now for 3 weeks, and this is my first international trip since COVID. And I made a very clear decision that said, I'm coming here for a variety of reasons, and I will stay and I will make the most of the visit and see as many clients as possible, attend as many conferences, participate in panels like this in this single trip, so that I'm being more, as I said, mindful, sustainably, right, for my carbon emissions. I'm aware of it, that I'm also I'm being more responsible with the expenses, and that I'm being more transparent in terms of why am I traveling. So again, I'm not just showing up for 1-hour meeting and then being in a location, but I'm actually being present, being involved with our team, spending time with Miguel, spending time with Rudy, spending time with many of our other clients. And it's made this trip much more value-driven than in the past, perhaps. And I think a lot of people, I think COVID really opened people's minds up to say, if I'm going to travel, what is the purpose of my travel?
I mean, look, I'm totally aligned with you, Emily, and traditional travel would come back to a certain level, and it will be complemented with what you were talking about, with a new type of travel, but the two of them will be mindful and with a purpose. And here technology can play a role, because there can be an intent to have a travel, but from a CFO perspective in a corporation, when is the trip really needed? Can it be fully remote? Should it be hybrid? Or should it be face-to-face presential? And if it is face-to-face, just like you did with your visit in Europe, how can we extract the biggest value from that trip, right? And here technology can definitely play a role in, assessing, for example, if you're connected with the CRM of your company, and you say, yes, your original intent is to attend TIS in Sevilla. But do you know that there are 3 customers in Madrid that you have not visited or had a chat with for the past 6 months? It would definitely be worthwhile for your company to go in Madrid. And that the technology can easily do, and that is, the avenue we're intending to follow.
Well, you touch a very interesting topic in the role of technology, but also on how the different corporations are now deciding how to go back to business travel. And we are probably seeing smaller companies going back faster than larger corporations. I think that's something to monitor and understand. But maybe a question for you, Emily, on this. What is your view on how corporations' expectations have changed, and which are the priorities that corporations are considering in order to get their teams back on the road and traveling and meeting clients, meeting the teams, etc.?
Yeah, no, thanks. It's a great question. I'd be remiss if I didn't start by saying cost. Cost is absolutely a factor that I wish it didn't have to be the first thing I say, but I think it's just the reality. And I think many corporations recognize when there wasn't travel over the last 20 months that there was a significant cost savings. But what's much more important, or at least on top of that, is around sustainability. And I think that what we're seeing is beyond corporations caring so much about that, making their commitments to net zero, demonstrating what their roadmap and path is. The employees, they care. They care more now than ever. They're asking for transparency. They're asking for visibility in terms of what are my emissions when I travel. And therefore, corporations are needing to provide that information to the employees so that people are making more responsible decisions. I think that's the, probably the biggest thing. The other thing, and I think Rudy mentioned it, is just around flexibility. Nobody wants to book a trip and then find out that either the flight's been canceled or that there are quarantine restrictions and requirements that they weren't aware of. So they want the flexibility to be able to modify the trip based on whatever is happening in the world. And I think that that's something that, hasn't historically been as valuable or as important to others.
So Rudy, going back to you on this topic and on the role of technology and how technology can help to take these decisions, and you used a couple of examples, but I think, is there anything else on how to actually tackle those new expectations from corporations from the technology point of view, the data side of this, which is, I think, very relevant to understand. So what's your view on this?
First of all, I mean, we can say we've seen the future and there will be data. And all aspects of the software and the solutions and the services will be rotating around data, right? But I want to come back to sustainability for a second, because I'm really excited about that. And here we're looking at what technology can do. The first thing, the best sustainability is don't travel, right? I mean, if you don't take a plane, you're more sustainable than if you do. However, with what I've said, we know that in order to create the trust to have the business going, we need to travel. So first of all, based on data, technology can give you a hint of saying, yeah, okay, can be remote, should be face-to-face. Now, when we talk about face-to-face, the first thing you think when traveling and sustainability, you say, well, maybe let's not fly, let's take the train. And by the way, that's what we did, the three of us, right, from Madrid, taking the AVE train. Or get it hybrid. You fly over from the US and then you take the train. And by the way, technology has got to bring that to the attention of the travelers and the different personas in the corporation that such a thing is possible. But then you can go beyond. And we start seeing emerging in the technology rating of hotels vis-à-vis their sustainability and having indicators. Because the problem is not the willingness of the corporations or the travelers to have more sustainable choices, is to have that information brought to them, right? And the same thing, you can go even beyond, because at the moment, nobody's telling you that if you're taking the 8 o'clock flight, you'll get an old 767, emitting a fairly big part of carbon dioxide. Whereas if you were just to wait for the 9:30, you would get the latest Airbus 321 Neo, and therefore saving 40% of carbon emission. So that's, where we believe for sustainability, technology backed up by data, because without data, you're nothing, right, will help. I don't know if you agree.
No, 100%. And that's what I meant earlier also about transparency, right? Transparency
Absolutely.
And communications, that the employees are expecting that from the corporations, and the corporations are expecting that from the travel companies. And it's that cycle that I think is the most important right now, that everybody is able to be aware of the impact. The other thing, and I'm jumping a little bit ahead here, but I did also want to talk about the new traveler. So we're talking a lot about, the way of the world, what corporations need, what the employees need. But there are so many new segments of travelers. So we could say, is business travel coming back, corporate travel coming back? And as I made the comment, the days of flying cross-country or across the pond for 1-hour meetings are long gone. But there's a whole new sector, probably many segments of business travelers. So again, I'm going to use a New York reference if that's okay. But I live in a city where many, many people for a long time lived within 5 to 10 blocks of their apartment. Their apartment was 5 to 10 blocks from their office. And the whole purpose of that was they were commuting into their office every day, and they just wanted to have an easy commute so they could get home at night and they could get there easily in the morning. And now, with decisions around work from home or hybrid environments where people don't need to live in the cities, they don't need to live near an office, they don't need to go to an office, there are people flocking outside of the big cities, and they're moving to the country, and they're moving many, many hours away. But then there's going to be a need for return to office 1 week a quarter, or 1 week a month, or 1 week a year. Who knows what the deals are going to be right now. But that segment of travelers never existed before. They never had to go anywhere. They just walked to their office every day or took the subway. Now they're actually going to have to stay in a hotel. Now they're going to have to take a flight. Now they're going to have to travel in some form. And that whole segment, it literally never existed. So we went through an exercise the other day of sort of doing the, the ups and downs and where we were going to net out. And, I think that not many people are realizing that that new segment exists when so many other segments seem to be, declining.
Absolutely. And here to this point, I don't know if you've seen, there was an announcement by a French company called Boursorama, which is an online bank doing online trading, right? And very recently they announced that they proposed to their employees to say, okay, guys, if you agree, as of next month, we'll be 100% remote. However, once a month, you'll come back 2 days at the headquarters and we'll pay for the T&E. And that's the new thing, right? And you were saying it, you remember Satya Nadella and Microsoft, they made a lot of researches. And they came up with the fact that all the employees are asking for more flexible remote options, work remote options. So they all want to get some sense of share of remote, but at the same time, they ask for more face-to-face interaction, even more than before COVID. And that's why we call, the hybrid work paradox. And that is exactly what you were saying. It's generating a new dimension of business travel.
Yeah, and there's another one I forgot to mention also. We talk a lot about the digital nomad, right? These are the digital nomads who want to work anywhere, everywhere, and that they don't have to be in a certain location. And so many people are saying, I want to go work near the beach so that when I'm done with my remote work day, I'm right at the ocean. We did a study with Accenture and found that I think it was 75% of the respondents are interested in working from a third space. So a third space is not home, not office, but a third space. And many of them actually responded to the survey saying that they'd be willing to spend $100 a month of their own money to have access to a third space. So again, there is going to be multiple forms of corporate travel that never existed before that I think we have to pay very much attention to. And travel companies need to be ready to respond to those needs.
That's it, exactly, because I think this topic is super exciting, and this is actually the future of corporate travel. And here the question is the industry ready to respond to this? Because I'm seeing also other dimensions that are a good opportunity for the industry and where, the person does not necessarily need to travel, because if now companies like Boursorama, they don't have an office anymore, so they may need meeting rooms, they may need meeting space, they may need someone to have an office because maybe they can't work from home, but maybe a couple of days a week they need to go to a hotel. And what's the role that, for example, hotels can play in this game to actually respond to this opportunity? So there are many, many components.
Or Starbucks coffees, hotels, Starbucks coffees, whatever. The whole industry has got to accept the new normality. And by the way, corporations have well understood that, because we have noticed during the pandemic that they've realized that with the new normality, they need to fully digitalize themselves. And we didn't see any way the appetite of the corporations abating. And they're coming to us and saying, help us with the technology and the services in order to have a truly end-to-end digital travel and expense process. Because in the world that Emily is describing, the demand for digital, frictionless, end-to-end processes is total.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you don't have it, it defeats the purpose of a nomad traveler being 1,000 miles away from the headquarters, but having to come back every now and then to bring paper receipts for expense, right? And you would think, but Rudy, all the big corporations have an end-to-end digital process. Not true.
Travel.
We had Forrester doing a study for us, and believe it or not, but we realized that 1/3 of the large corporations, and I'm not talking about an SME, are still relying on Excel for managing the expense, right? So the need to have the end-to-end frictionless mobile digital transformation is understood by corporations. Otherwise, they won't be able to cope with the new normality.
Yeah, there's another element too. You're talking about the corporations and how they respond. I'm going back also to the travel companies. Loyalty is probably one of the most interesting topics right now in terms of, as Miguel was saying, about how are they prepared to respond. If people aren't traveling the way that they used to with the volume that they used to, what are points worth? How are they assigning points? What's the value of points? What's the whole model around it? And so a lot of travel companies are reimagining their loyalty schemas and what's going to be valuable. And is it about, it's no longer about just, as I said, volume. Maybe it's about experiences. Maybe it's about working with the whole end-to-end journey. So it's not just about my hotel stays, but it's about when I leave my door, how I get to the airport, how I get from the airport, onto the plane, how I get from the plane to a rental car or to an Uber or something, and then into my hotel. And where's my luggage along that journey? And can loyalty help with that entire end-to-end journey? Or is it really just about a perk? And so there's a lot going on and a lot of need for fitting loyalty into the new end-to-end journey.
I think it's exciting again. So the strategic thinking that the industry, airlines, hotels, etc., need to do to respond to this is huge.
Yeah.
Because it's not that you need to adapt your product, that probably in some cases they need it, but it's how to position that in the market, how to sell it, how to make sure that on the loyalty side you actually make this, repeatable for the customer.
Right.
How you are in the digital space, in those channels or whatever where the new digital nomads or remote workers are, to actually capture this demand opportunity, because it's going to be very difficult.
And what may be the new products,
Exactly.
right? So we're talking about new customer segments or new traveler segments, but what are the new products?
Yeah.
And
Again, it's data. It's a data game, because I think now the industry really need to, and it's true that maybe for some of these topics, the old data or the pre-pandemic data may not be valid anymore. But I believe that having the right data capabilities to actually understand what's going on, which is the opportunity that they can tackle, what each customer is expecting. So the topic around personalization that we have been talking for ages in this industry now is extremely relevant, because it's a new traveler, it's a new business traveler with new motivations, because we didn't discuss about all the well-being, health and safety dimension that I think it's extremely important. Now we also realize as business travelers, and we are all business travelers, right? That also working from home, and it's different. So how the industry is going to respond to that? So that, as you said, that just around 30% of the business travelers surveyed were worried about getting COVID, but it's not about getting COVID.
right.
It's about this new life being well-being and so on.
But the good thing is that here again, quoting census-wide, the study we made, we've seen that 67% of the travelers are now ready to share personal data and health data through, a digital passport in order to be able to travel. 67 for international travel, and we were discussing a few minutes ago where I said, but it's funny because it goes down to 42% when it is domestic. So here again, the importance of data to understand,
Yes.
how far they go. But the good thing is that they're all saying, we expect technology to help us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Help us with the digital passport, help us with the mobility, contactless payment, check-in, you were talking, from airport to flight, from flight to taxi to rental car to hotel. The fact that we still need to go and touch a plastic card in order to enter the hotel room is something that the travelers are saying, kind of, if I can avoid that, right? And the same thing, I'm not paying anymore with a plastic card, I'm putting my phone, which is, by the way, touching nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm safe, right? And we really see that expectations. But as you were saying, we cannot be focused on travelers only. You have the corporations, and within a corporation, you have different personas. You have the CFO, and the CFO, as you said, is all about saying, why should I open the floodgates of travel expense again, right? And here technology based on data can help them saying, no, with a self-booking tool, you could say, we recommend a real travel or we recommend a remote. And maybe to sign a customer in Italy, you can be remote. In Germany, it's got to be face-to-face. And facts will prove to the CFO that there is a true value into traveling. But you have people and culture. You have auditors. Here again, machine learning and data will drastically help us in automating everything which is predictable and to leave the human intervention to the true value creation. And so we have that convergence of technological deliverables to satisfy the different personas in a corporation.
Wonderful.
Okay, so I think we are on top of the hour, so I don't know if there is any question from the audience. Okay.
I mean, simply just being conscious of time, I think it's when I talked about purpose and value. I think the more you can demonstrate the value of leaving the office and getting out on the road, the more likely you will to have success.
Okay,
Just,
so
first of all, there are digital means of doing so,
Yes, of course.
of conveying the purpose, creating the purpose thanks to data, and conveying the purpose to the right people in the corporations through collaborative tools.
good. So I think we have another question over there.
Yeah.
Maybe a strange question, but in my past, when I was traveling for business, I also took days to spend my time for more things, to visit the cities
Yeah.
and to meet with the culture. Is there, according to this new dimension, the purpose of any new business travel linked with the need for corporate to retain talent?
Yes.
Is there any trend in terms of combining more this business travel with leisure travel?
Leisure.
Yeah, this is one of the topics we were planning to discuss, but
Yeah,
we ran out of
yeah.
time. But all the trend around leisure,
Yeah.
and Emily, I don't know if you want to comment.
Yeah,
about
I mean,
that.
it's just that concept of leisure, right? Business and leisure has really taken off. So when I was talking about the new traveler, I should also talk about the new travel needs of the traveler. And leisure is absolutely one where we're finding, travelers are looking to say, if I'm, back to my point about value and purpose-driven and responsible decisions, if I'm going out on the road, why not add a leisure trip? Because I can, right? Because I can be remote, and therefore I'm maximizing the trip. And I'm maximizing the trip both professionally as well as personally. And so back to Miguel's point about wellness, now I don't want to go out and travel all the time because I had the opportunity to have been at home for the last 20 months and realize my health is better, I'm able to exercise better, I'm able to eat better. But if I'm going to travel, then let me make it more worthwhile, not just financially for the company, not just from a value driven for the client or whoever you're visiting, but also for you as an individual. And I think there's a huge uptake on that.
And
Excuse me? Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
here,
Starting to.
a little caveat, which is, first of all, I'm totally aligned, and in terms of sustainability, purpose, and so on, leisure is going to be a plus. Technology can do it. It's fine. We can have a technology where, in a self-booking tool, you can have, the corporate means of payment, a personal means of payment, and having that, cohabiting. There is a psychological barrier depending on the country. And I have seen, for example, corporations in the US being much more open to that, and this is why you answer it.
why I said that.
Absolutely. And this is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
In other parts of the world, you may have a little bit more reluctance. And the same thing applies to policies. Some very big corporations that we are having conversations with are telling us complex policies are a lure into making you believe that you control. Travelers will find their way to go around them. Go for simple policies. Some other corporations are telling you, no, I go the other way. So you have that psychological barrier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you both. So we don't have time for more questions. We are very late. Hope it was useful and exciting, and thank you very much for coming.